let's just get greasy. Let's get it. Let's go. All right. What's goody, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for joining. I just want to say mad shout out Dave Weber, mad shout out Byron, and all the team over there at Modern Muscle Extreme. Respect you. Thank you. Anyway, welcome back to the Hemi build. Right now I'm just going to shoot a video on how to do a cylinder head replacement or installation on a Gen 3 and up Hemi. It's also pretty much the same for any generation below. All right, so besides the motor being built in water, just say we're doing a head gasket replacement, or say a lifter failed or whatever, this is going to be the procedure, so you don't want to miss it. So stick around. Just gonna run through it real fast. We are installing the MMX Big Gas CNC laser cut race Gen 3 cylinder head. So these got some massive valves on them. They've got some really large valve ports, so why it's the Big Gas. Also, the port on these are significantly larger than the stock Hemi head. Installed with a bunch of comp hardware. So this is all comp tech springs, valves, and retainers. I think these are Manley valves, and the retainers are from comp. So all the valve spring hardware is going to be from comp. Shout out comp one time. Thanks for the support. And yeah, so pretty much all the guides and seals comp hardware, and then the port on this thing is just massive, so that's why we got that. You can see right there, it's Big Gas, get what I'm saying? So let's just get it installed. We're using a Kinetic multi-layer gasket. That's what we're going to use to assemble this thing, so let's just slap that onto that. All right, so you can see where I started putting in some of the lifters already, and then the lifters I'm using, they are the MMX Hellcat non-MDS lifters. So these lifters are non-MDS. I just want to put that out there. If you were to do the job and you're using your stock lifters, you want to make sure that you take note of the location of the lifter. So each lifter has a lifter tray has a specific location. So pretty much what you'd want to do is on the back of that lifter tray, it would say MDS. If that cylinder were MDS, then you'd put the lifter tray that has the MDS on there with the MDS roller installed. So you'll see to the left of your screen here, I have my lifters in a pan of oil. That's because I've had my lifters and my push rods soaking in oil for the longest time. So you want to make sure you have them soaking before you attempt to install these. If you don't leave them soaking in the oil, what will happen when you install them dry, the lifters, they won't load up, because these things, they're hydraulic and they load up with oil. So if they have no oil, they're gonna stick, and that could wipe out your cam, and really bad, especially if you just spent all that time building it. So make sure when you're installing these, they're all in the tray, and make sure that they're all faced the right way with the rollers in an upward position. So I'm just gonna run through putting all these in real quick, and then torque them down. Same for the other side. Make sure your lifter boards are clean, free from any dirt or debris that might be in there. The most important thing is keeping everything clean. So you don't want anything. So I'm just gonna go ahead and make sure this is nice. For the lifter trays, these get 9 foot-pounds. We are at the right side of the engine, passenger side. I'm gonna be doing this one first, and then I'm gonna do the one on the driver's side after. Anyway, make sure everything is nice and clean down in there. Can't stress that enough. It's also a good practice to make sure you time the engine. So what I'm gonna do I'm gonna rotate the engine a little bit backwards because I was already in time, and then I'm gonna put it 30 degrees past. So here's your number 2 cylinder. This cylinder should be all the way at bottom dead center, and then your number 1 cylinder over here should be at top dead center. So I'm just gonna rotate the engine real quick and set the time. So you can see where I'm bringing that piston all the way to bottom dead center, and then I'm gonna leave my number 1 just about 30 degrees past top dead center. So here's what I mean. Here's my number 1. You can see right down in there, you can see I got this little lip. So it's not at complete top dead center, it's just past top dead center. And why I do that is because when I put the cylinder head on, I tighten down the valves with the rocker shafts and all the push rods in that assembly. I don't want the valves to start opening up and possibly hit the top of the piston. So that's why I do that. So just a little trick and tip, don't bend your valves. So when you're at top dead center, your engine pretty much is gonna look like this. Your number 1 is gonna be a TDC. 3 is gonna be almost halfway on down its stroke. 5 is gonna be pretty much almost up on its compression, its exhaust stroke, and then 7 is gonna be all the way at BDC. So that's what it's gonna look like, and you already know the other side is gonna be different as well. So let's just proceed with the head installation. Can't stress cleanliness enough. Make sure the bore is clean. Make sure the cylinders are clean. Don't want any dirt up in here. And then I'm just gonna spit a little bit of oil in there just to give it back some of that lubrication after I just cleaned it out. And this will help the rings seat nicely. And you can use WD-40 too, but some good old engine oil, you know what I mean? That'll keep it under compression nice and good. That won't hurt. I'm using a Cometic multi-layer head gasket. For this application, I'm using 54 thousandths deck height. So this is going to increase my deck height by 54 thousandths. I believe this is a 7-layer. Yeah, this is a 7-layer. Yep, this is a 7-layer gasket. So that's what I'm going to be using for this application. And how you tell where the gaskets go, it's got a little inscription on it that says right or left. And usually where the inscription is, that will indicate the upwards position of the gasket. Back in the day, they used to have a little arrow on it and it used to say up. I know Felpro still does that, but this is how you can tell the difference. So anyway, with a clean surface and a clean gasket, let's go ahead and install the gasket over the dowel pins or the cylinder head guile pins. Just make sure everything's nice and seated. That's good. All right, so now I'm just gonna go ahead and put on the cylinder head real quick. So I went ahead and already assembled the JBAs, because that's the headers we're using. So we got the JBA headers. These were actually on the car before I took it apart. So I kind of just cleaned them up and resurfaced them, cleaned off all the gasket material that was on them. So there's the other one. Got it looking nice and spiffy. So I just go ahead and bolt them all up with the gasket prior to installing the head, because it's much easier to do it this way instead of do it from the factory. And I already got it apart anyway. I don't want to have to fight with clearance trying to get my hands onto at an angle trying to bolt down the stuff, because once the heads go on, the clearance minimizes right here. So there's a little trick. If you got your cylinder heads off already, just go ahead and bolt up your long tubes to them prior to the installation. It will make life a lot easier. Though your mid part's going to be kind of like in the way a little bit, you want to kind of go ahead and tuck them, you know, a certain way, kind of tuck them really to make them not hit. All right, so let's just slap this on real fast and get that going. Just like that, I got one side on. You just want to be extremely careful not to scratch the surface or anything like that. So that's kind of why I'm gonna install the ARPs after. All right, so now I'm just gonna lube up the ARPs with the fastener assembly lube that comes with the kit and slam those in. I'll show you how I do that. Here's the kit I'm using. This is 244-5400, and pretty much this is the Gen 3 Hemi ARP stud kit. So let's go ahead and break them out real quick and set them up. You got all those tanners, you got the instructions right here, which I'll be going over in a few. And here is the bolts. So just gonna go ahead and start prepping these real fast. Alright, now we got the ARPs lubed up. We're just gonna run them down hand tight. So this is how I like to do it. Some guys, they put the cylinder head on, they put the ARP down first, and then they put the cylinder head on. I don't like that method. Nothing's really wrong with that method, but besides the fact that you could scratch the cylinder head on the ARPs while you're trying to run them down. So I think that's a common mistake that a lot of guys make. But on the instructions, it clearly tells you put the cylinder head down first and then run the bolts down hand tight. So as you can see, that's what I'm doing. So here's my first ARP down hand tight. I'm just gonna grab the rest of it. Just get them down in there. So this is what it's supposed to look like when they're lubed up. So notice how I have them, they're clean. All the portion of the thread pitch is clean. I make sure your bolt holes, original bolt holes, are clean on the block as well. So I'm just gonna go ahead and run these down in there real fast. Torque on this, on the exhaust manifold bolts, are 22 foot-pounds. It's pretty much just fast, snug. I'm not gonna really hit them with the torque wrench. You're just snug them up. It's not that difficult. Just make sure it's tight to where they're not leaking, and also make sure you tighten them in a sequence so that everything is sealed properly. When done, it should look like that. So we're just gonna put the left side on real quick, just like the other side. Make sure that it's free from debris, all clean, spotless, the surface and the cylinder. Right? Here's the inscription right here, and it says L. So that's the left side. Usually, where the L is at, that indicates upwards. So for this side, it's kind of wanting to hang a little bit on me. So I'm using these ones right now to hold it and support it dry. So these ones are not lubed yet. So I'm just pretty much trying to get it, stable. So yeah, for now, I'm just gonna grab these bolts, lube them up and throw them in. The ones that I haven't lubed yet, I'm gonna take out and then put them in. Got them all in. We're just gonna run them down hand tight, completely snug. We're not gonna do any tightening. So that's all hand tight. Then run down the passenger side bolts really. So this is a tedious procedure when you're putting everything back together. A lot easier to take it apart than it is to put it together. It's very time consuming. Nonetheless, you'll get it done. And get these ones down. Pretty much hand tight. Just gonna get all the washers on, which I already did. You notice right here, I got those washers on, so I'm just gonna start these bolts real quick. They're a 10mm star pattern. Just an FYI. I'm just gonna run these down, and then I'm gonna run down all the washers on these bolts in here and do the other side. Now just gonna put on the washers for these bolts real quick. For that I'm gonna use a light magnet, so I don't really want to get anything dirty, so I'm just gonna pretty much just slam them on. Just like that. I don't really want to get too much stuff dirty. You know what I mean? Try to be clean as possible. So we got those on. We're gonna do the same for the opposite side. So if you look closely at the bolts, you see all that gooey stuff. So that gooey stuff is pretty much the fastener assembly lube provided by ARP. I highly recommend you use this. There it is, ARP Ultra Fastener Assembly Lubrication. So on the instructions, it's recommended that you lather the washers up and put them down into the bolt or the stud. Also, you put a nice good film on the thread pitch, which we did before. So I just wanted to point that out. Now we're just gonna grab our 14mm 12-point socket and get these nuts down. So these are what they look like, and this is what you need: 14mm 12-point socket to get them down. So I'm just gonna run them down hand tight, just snug, before we start the procedure. There's one side with the bolts or the nuts just installed right now before I run them down the machine. So let's just go ahead and do the exact same thing we just did to that side over to this side. So I know it's a tedious procedure. I know, you don't want to, it's kind of tiring and boring, but the procedure must be followed. That way you can get the optimal performance of the equipment. Fast, just like that. Nothing too crazy. we're at the point now where we're gonna start torquing down all the studs. I'm gonna use my Snap-on Tech Angle torque wrench. Any other torque wrench will do as long as it's properly calibrated. For this procedure, you want to make sure you got everything spot on. You don't want to mess up. All right. So my torque wrench is capable of doing a presets on preloads. Presets pretty much is gonna be this up here. This little box up here is the preset. So I got 10 bolts on this side of the cylinder head, and I want to apply an even amount of torque to them both. So I've set up my torque to go to 25 foot-pounds on the M12 studs, and then on the M8 studs, which are gonna be these ones right here, these 5, those ones we're gonna be given a torque value of 15 foot-pounds. But these bolts are all in sequence, so it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, and then 11 starts right here. 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. So that's the sequence we're gonna start it. Let's see. You're just at 20. $25. I'm gonna come back up to here. I'm at 25. Come back down to number 3 bolt. So I'm just gonna run through the rest real quick. There you have it. You can see I'm at 10, my 10th bolt, and 25 foot-pounds even. Now I'm gonna go to the top 5 bolts for the runners, and these are gonna get 15 foot-pounds. 15. Then I'm gonna hold this button, and I'm gonna add the preset, and I'm gonna press enter. There. So minimum torque 15, and here we go. And they're also 12.10 millimeter. All right. So this is number 11. Probably need to run them down a little bit more. I don't really run them down that much. Here we go. You can feel the ARP slightly turning. 15 on the money. 11. 12. 13 over here. 14. 15, and this one, I'll give it the last torque. You can see where it jumped right there, the stud spinning. 15. So now we're gonna bump it up a notch. Let me see the other torque value here. So first we're gonna use the dealer torque value, and then we're gonna bump it up evenly to So here's the dealer torque value. They want 25 foot-pounds from 1 to 10, which are these. And then they want 15 foot-pounds from 11 to 15 that we just did. So this will be 11 to 15 on top. Now we're gonna tie in 1 to 10 again in that sequence to 40 foot-pounds. Once again, got my preset at 10 and my preload is at 40, all right? And we are on bolt number 1. Do not lift the torque wrench until you achieve that value, all right? So let's just smash through that real fast. Real fast. That's 40, and that's 1. All right. Number 2. On the 11 to 15 bolts, which are the M8 studs, we're gonna recheck that we got 15 foot-pounds. So going back in. Nice. So we're just gonna run through all these. Okay, so here's where everything gets kind of tricky. So we just did the 40 foot-pounds, right? On 1 to 10 bolts, which are these big ones over here. And then we rechecked the 11 to 15 bolts at 15 foot-pounds. Now after that, the dealer specifications are requiring you to add an additional torque of 45 foot-pounds to 1 to 10 bolts. And then the last pass would be a 90-degree. We are not doing that because we are using ARP hardware. Now on the ARP instructions over here, you will see that we're trying to achieve 105 foot-pounds. Although it says we gotta follow the manufacturer recommended torque specs and tighten the nuts in 3 equal steps, right? To this, I'm taking my time on it into multiple steps to make sure that the cylinder head is seated properly to achieve that 105. So what I mean by that is simply this. What I'm gonna do is, I just got 40 foot-pounds on these M12 studs. What I'm gonna do now is go to an additional 60, I'm gonna probably go to 65 foot-pounds on these in a sequence, and then recheck these at 15. So each time I do a pass at a target, I'm gonna recheck these at 15. So these are not gonna change. These are gonna stay at 15 foot-pounds, because as we go tighter on the cylinder head, it's gonna compress and these are gonna come loose. All right. So I'm doing this in multiple steps once again to achieve 105 foot-pounds, because we are using the ARP. And then after I'm done with the M8 studs, I'm gonna achieve 25. All right. We are set to 65 foot-pounds, 1 of 10. Check my 15. Remember, I'm not gonna stop at 15 on the 11 to 15 bolts. I'm only making sure that it's steady at 15. But the last torque value is gonna be 25, right? So this one, I make sure the preload is constant on these bolts for the duration. All right, so after a 65 value, I guess I'm gonna probably bump it up 30. So I'm gonna go 85 on these 1 to 10 bolts. My preset's at 10, and my preload's at 85 foot-pounds on the 1 to 10 bolts. I got my 85. Now I'm gonna go back on the M8 studs to get my 15. The value changes each time. You could tell. You could tell because it just loosens as I go tighter. But like I said, I just want to make the clamp load even across the surface because end game, the M8s are getting 25 foot-pounds, right? So now I'm at 85. I'm gonna step up the M12 studs to 105, and that will be my final pass on the ARPs. So here I go. My preset once again, 1 of 10. And then my minimum value is 104 foot-pounds, though it's set to max at 105. And there you have it, 105 foot-pound. Now we're just gonna torque bolts 1 to 11 at that 25 foot-pounds. So this is gonna be the M8 studs. So this gets 25 foot-pounds across the board. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, good. So that part's done as far as the torque procedure. So it's gonna be the same for the opposite end. I'm gonna run through that real quick off camera and then proceed to dropping in the push rods and rocker shaft assembly. After you make your torque, let them sit for about 5-10 minutes and then go back over them again and retorque at 105. I have seen where they have come loose. All right, I've seen that before. So let them sit for 5 minutes and then go back in and check all the bolts for the proper torque. So these ones are at 105 and these ones are at 25. The M8 25 and 12 105. Check after 5 to 10 minutes. So we're at the final pass on the driver's side and we're at 104 foot-pounds to 105 max. Bolt number 1. And these ones, they get 25. Oh, simple, simple, simple. Not hard. After this, I'm gonna slam in the push rods real quick. And I'll let them sit and then recheck all the torque again. All right, so what you want to do before you even think of doing this, you want to make sure that you got your push rods soaking. These were soaking along with my lifters for the longest time because you just gotta do it. It helps them, work properly. You know what I mean? I don't want to get into that. Just if you didn't watch the other video, just go ahead and watch that on the cam installation, the lifter installation, cylinder installation. You'll get the info there. Anyway, I'm using the Hellcat push rods. These are the 1811 Forge from Modern Muscle Extreme. So shout out to them one time. And then on the bench here, you want to make sure you got all your rocker shaft and rocker arm assembly assembled and ready, clean and good to go. So how they work is these are not interchangeable, so you can't swap the rocker shafts per side on the cylinder. You can't put the intake side over here. Just you got to make sure they go a certain way. All right. How you know how they go is they have an I inscripted on the rocker shaft assembly, which indicates the intake portion of the cylinder head. So this one here would be for the intake, and this would be for the intake on the other side, various banks. And then the ones that don't don't have anything, these ones obviously go to the exhaust. So this is how they're oriented. This portion here that has the tappet, this part hits the valve, right? And then this part's controlled by the rocker. All right, you can see we've got a check valve in there. That's for oiling purposes. All right, so make sure you got that spot on. Secondly, these push rods, they're not all the same length. So you want to make sure that you pay attention to the lengths, okay? The shorter push rods go to the intake side, and the longer push rods go to the exhaust side. Let me just jump onto my computer here and verify that real quick. Okay. Let's go up. Okay, install the push rods, same order as removed, okay? The longer push rods, let me just zoom in on that for you so you get that info. The longer push rods are for the exhaust side, and the shorter push rods are for the intake side, all right? Don't forget. So I'm just gonna go ahead and smash this out real fast. I'm gonna try to walk you through as best as I can. Another good observation you want to make when you're purchasing your cam, depending on the grinder, your cam is going to determine your push rod. So I just want to make that clear. In this video, we're using an NSR Stage 3 cam from MMX, and so it's almost at a stock spec because we intend to boost this motor. So it's not a very high lift. I think it's at 8050, something like that. And the push rod legs, they are already custom fit, so you can't just use whatever push rod you want with whatever cam you want. I just want to put that out there. So when you get a custom grind cam, you have to make sure you get the push rod supporting mods with it, especially if you're doing like something that requires a heavy spring set. You're gonna have to upgrade your push rod. So I just wanted to throw a little tech tip in there. Also, when you're installing the push rods on the passenger side, you want to start with your intake push rod, and it's the shorter one, and it goes right on top right here in this groove in that slot right there. All right, and then the longer longer push rod, which is the exhaust, goes through that slot right there. So on your passenger side, you start with your intake push rod, and then you work your way down, all right? On the driver's side, it's quite opposite. You start with your exhaust push rod right here, and then your intake push rod right there, all right? So let's just run through that real quick, and then I'll walk you through it. So you're gonna measure up your push rods. So I'm doing it in my basket right now. I went intake, exhaust, and now I need another intake. So I'm gonna grab a short one with my magnet, kind of drain off the excess oil real quick, and then come on in with it in that slot right there. You will feel, because my lifters are loaded too, because I have them soaking. So you'll feel the lifter go down. That's a good indication that your push rod is seated. You're gonna go ahead and grab exhaust, which is longer. Drain that off. Like I said, my push rods are custom grinded. They're at 8050. You can see that right there. 8050 from AMX. Alright. So, and these ones go in this hold right here. Here my lifter. My lifter just seated on the cam. And make sure your cam is on base circle, at least 40 degrees past top dead center. Because when you tighten these down, you don't want to run the risk of bending a valve if all your pistons are up in the cylinder head. So now I got my intake. I'm just gonna run that right there. My lifter go down. I'm gonna grab the long one. Exhaust. Exhaust is gonna go right there. Those are my lifters hitting my cam. You should have that sound. And that way you know you've done everything correctly. Intake. and another exhaust. This one goes in at an angle. Just take your time to get it in there. Don't force it. You don't want to bend these. There we go. Now I'm gonna just smash the other. Same procedure for the other side, but you're gonna start with an exhaust first. Remember, don't forget. I'm gonna grab a long push rod. Dry that off a little bit. There we go. Then we're gonna get an intake push rod, and that side is gonna be a shorter one. Just like that. We're gonna get an exhaust, longer one. Like that. Get an intake, shorter one. Yeah. And we get an exhaust, longer one. Notice I'm stressing longer and shorter. So there's no way you can mess this up. Now you get an intake, shorter one. You follow this step, you won't go wrong. Exhaust. And then finally, an intake right there. There you go. So push rods are installed. Now I'm just gonna bring the rocker arm assembly over onto the engine. Alright, I'm gonna start with the intake shaft assembly. So this is gonna be a little tricky, right? It's gonna be very tricky. So I think I'm gonna be like this. Okay, so make sure the parts with the eyes on them hit the valve, because these ones have to tap it. So kind of like wiggling it in and making sure nothing falls. That's gonna be kind of the trick. Alright, so I went ahead and just installed them all partially, because it's tedious. You gotta really work them in there and pretty much make sure that everything seats properly. What I mean is, you gotta make sure that the rocker shaft assembly, well, the rocker itself, that it moves freely on the shaft, that there's play. You don't want it binding between the retainer and the actual rocker. You know what I mean? Just so you want to check that. Also check that the push rod is properly seated into its bore and into the rocker itself. So it's kind of tedious procedure. You know what I mean? It's stuff that you must check, you must follow. And yeah, make sure the tappets contact the valves as best as possible while they're seated. And yeah, so just a couple stuff to take note of. So now just gonna run them all down to snug, and then I'm gonna torque them to 7 foot-pounds, and then after that I'm gonna torque them to 17 foot-pounds. I'm gonna loosen again half a turn and then torque 17. Remember I said make sure that you're at least 40 degrees past TDC, because when you do that you're gonna create a space, because it's gonna be in correct time and proper time, because these valves are gonna open. So your number two valve is gonna want to open. As you can see, it's already under tension. You can see the rocker, the rocker itself is not moving, it's barely moving. So make sure everything is seated. So I'm just gonna snug it all down real quick just to get everything started, and then I'm gonna go with a 7 foot-pounds. But don't be alarmed when the valve starts to tighten. That's normal. Just be sure that you are in the correct time. Cam needs to be just past base circle, and your number one piston needs to be barely just past top deck center. All right, so let's just run. Gonna get them snug at 7 foot-pounds. I like to follow the procedure. You know what I mean? Once it sees some torque, it should light up. As I tighten it, I can see the valve compressing, so just make sure you are checking that everybody is seated properly. I hate to say it, but if you don't follow the procedure, you will fuck this up and you will cry. I promise you. I promise you. I'm gonna loosen a little bit. I don't like how the valve. You can see the spring compressing. Look at this spring. You can see it compressing. So I'm gonna back off some tension because I want this. Yeah, I want it centered. Now I'm gonna put some tension on it. You're gonna see it compress. Get the snug on these ones. That valve is opening. Number 2, that's okay. That's okay. So I went ahead and got them all snug to 7 because it's pretty tedious to hold them in place and, you know, get them all, you know, nice and solid. Anyway, I'm gonna set my torque wrench now to 17 foot-pounds, and then I'm gonna snug them all up. So 17 foot-pounds on the wrench, and then get them all nice and snug. Some extra light in there. So start off with our intake side, number 1. Yeah, buddy. And then got my son in the garage with me. There. Careful with that one, buddy. There. Over here. 17. I'm gonna go on the exhaust side. Hold on, buddy. Use the other one. Use the other one. Yeah, use the other one, bud. I know. Yeah. It's quite simple, pretty much. Follow the procedure. You can't go wrong. And lastly, this one here. Good. Now we're gonna loosen half the turn. I'm gonna start here. So let's say this right here, this would be 1 full turn. So we're gonna come from here to here. All right. So loosen. 1 full turn. All right. 1/2 a turn. Sorry. Half a turn. Half a turn. Half a turn. And then re-torque at 17, so I'm just gonna snug them. Then I'm gonna retorque at 17, so I'm gonna follow that procedure for the rest of them. I don't know why they say to do that actually. Why not just torque them at 17 and leave them, right? And 5. After we torque to 17 foot-pounds, loosened and retorque to 17 foot-pounds, we're gonna want to get a torque angle at 30 degrees. So we're gonna do a 30 degree turn on the angle. So I'm gonna start here. Alright, let's run through this one. It's important that you do that, and then this brings it to the proper spec as compared to just torquing it to 17 foot-pounds and leaving it, and it wouldn't be properly torqued. And that's what separates a mechanic from a technician. You don't just wrench. You follow the procedure and you understand it. So let's just repeat the same procedure for the opposite side. So at the angle of 30, it will bring the torque to 25. Just go ahead and recheck that your torque's at 25. At least the minimum 25 foot-pounds. So this is pretty much what it is. There you go. It's always good to recheck bolts when you torque them, because notice that bolts come loose for some reason. They just, I don't know, they stretch. I noticed that with ARPs. For one, when I tighten them and I let them sit for like 5 minutes and then I come back and check them, they're like loose. Not significantly, but enough, you know? So it's always good to recheck your torque specs at least a couple times to make sure everything is good. Alright, at this point we could go ahead and put on our valve covers, let everything properly torqued, everything is good. Make sure your valve cover is clean. You don't have a parts cleaner, just some brake cleaner will do. Also, do make sure that you replace the gasket, as I did. It's quick, easy, it's cheap. Replace all the gaskets. It's gonna save you, especially if you had the valve cover sitting for a while. You know what I mean? Though they might not look deteriorated, chances are they're not gonna seal properly. So just go ahead and do that. As far as the valve cover installation goes, I'm not gonna lie to you, I kind of forgot which valve cover goes where. So I'm just gonna kind of try to finesse it on. If it works on this side, yay. If it doesn't, then I'll just put it on the other side. So pretty sure this came over here. Now, that looks good to me. So I'm just gonna call this the left side. It looks like it bolts up nice. So just go ahead and do the same. At least make sure you got some clean valve covers, you know. Don't just be like it is, alright? So I'm gonna do the same to the opposite side. All right, so end game. This is what it's supposed to look like when all said and done with the valve covers installed. And yeah, so this concludes the cylinder head installation. So now just put the intake manifold back on and you're done. And when you're gonna put the intake manifold on, just make sure you go ahead and replace all the gaskets, all right? Clean out all the ports, make sure everything is nice and spiffy, including these gaskets right here. Don't forget, you want it to seal properly, so just don't cheap out. Change your manifold gaskets and then slam it on. And we got the engine a complete long block, so it's looking good. All I gotta do is just put a new thermostat, do a little bit of plumbing there, put in the intake pipe and the vacuum line over there, and I'm done. Oh, and put on the hood. Wifey that. Anyway, yeah, that's the move. Yep, it's like nothing happened. Look at that. Very nice. Very clean installation. Yep, very clean installation. Look at that. Whoa, very nice. Very clean. Yep, that's how it over here. Katana Garage. Katana Files. Yep. Nice. So if you like the video, just hit the thumbs up. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed already, please go ahead and subscribe, all right? And you already know what time it is. Got loads more content coming, including my track builds, which I'm trying to release as well. So let's just get going. Let's stay wrenching. Peace.